Good morning, everybody. This is Andrew Hickman from Capital Region ESD. We just want to do a quick check-in to see who's in the room. And while we're doing that, I would like you to please use the link that's on the screen. If you could have that pulled up on your device, that would be wonderful. If you do not have a device, please work with a partner, or you can just use the screen that's on the board. So other ESDs, if you could just quickly check in so we can have a presence on the video.
Good morning, Andrew. This is Larry at ESD 105.
This is Amy at 189.
Brenda Dunn at 123.
Catherine Levick at 112.
This is Pete and Sue at North Central ESD in Wenatchee.
I'm not on video. So this is Shannon Thiessen from OSPI, and I'm checking in as well.
So thank you, everybody, for checking in. The link will remain on the board for a couple seconds. We would like to welcome you to the Washington State Computer Science Leadership Network. Today's focus is the computer science mindset. So we will be going through activities throughout the day across the state of Washington. If you noticed, we have most ESCs represented. Others will join and use these activities in a future date when they can meet as well. So the first thing I want to point your attention to is you'll notice that the slide deck that you have the link to is editable. So please remember to not delete anything. That would be very helpful. Okay. And the next step we're going to do is here's our agenda for the day. We're running from 9 a.m. till about noon. After noon, your region has the option to join us for a lunch and learn where we have CS for all, and he's going to also introduce script. And then the afternoon session after that is up to the region. So I would like to officially welcome you to this group this year and welcome you to day one for 2019-2020. Very appreciative that you could all make it. And with that, we're going to begin. So the first thing you need to think about is computer science as a whole. We are a network of computer science leaders. So myself and Sue Kane from North Central ESD are going to run you through an activity in a few minutes. The first thing we want you to do, if you have not done so already, is there's a link on slide 4 that will allow you to apply to be a part of the Washington State Computer Science Leadership Network Workplace account. Workplace is a very Facebook-esque facility where you can interact with information and news that we have across the state. We post opportunities there, we post questions, etc. So this is where our continued collaboration outside of these meetings occur. If you don't have time to fill this out now, this link is active and will continue to work. Okay. The next thing we want to do is I want to direct your attention to slide 5. Well, let's actually show this really quick so you can see what you're looking at. So this is Workplace. When you get here, this is kind of what it looks like. So our network, and you'll notice we have people who want to join the group. We'll accept you in a few minutes. Has it where other participants, CS partners, can post updates, videos, etc. Shannon also posts updates for the state of Washington here, and we post things across the groups. You may also post questions as a member. So if you have computer science questions, requests, or needs, feel free to post in here so we can help support you better. So this is how it works. You have a feed, you post, we talk, we comment, and we work together.
I'm approving, so.
Okay. And Shannon is approving as we go. Okay. Okay. The next thing I want to point our attention to as an introduction, the ESDs that announced that they were here for this roll call, this is kind of our data across the state currently. So for meeting 1, for those that could join us live today, from 105, they have 15 people in the room. Welcome. From 113, we have 8, 123, 7, 171, we have 13, and then 189, 12, and then 112, 4. So we have a good representation from across the state of Washington of computer science leaders. I also love that we have demographic information from different districts, okay? And this is a great representation to show the power of the network as well as computer science. And with that, we're going to begin our first activity. So I'm going to turn it over to Sue, who's going to help introduce our CS SWOT analysis.
All right. So we're going to try an interactive poll across the state where you will be able to see feedback from others as they respond to these prompts. We have 4 prompts for you. Some of you might be familiar with the business analysis that is then called a SWOT analysis, where you examine with respect to a given strategy or something that you're trying to do. We've done this for different community-based organizational efforts. You examine your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats or challenges in a SWOT analysis. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a platform called Menti. If you haven't used this before, it's a really neat tool that you can use with your kids. And it does kind of like a poll anywhere, except it's going to show you the responses. You have to type in responses that are more like a tweet. You have about 240 characters to make your responses. And you're going to go to menti.com, and the code that you're going to use is right there at the top. I thought it was 6 numbers, so we'll see how this works. It works. All right. So 36924. And we're going to begin. So what we want to do for this first, to kind of put you in the right headspace, we are looking at this group of CS leads as you are here as a representative of your district, whether you're at the primary or the secondary level, whether you're just putting a toe in the water, you're an administrator, you're a teacher. We are looking at you, and the whole purpose of these 3 meetings this year is to cultivate an agent of change that's going to be able to bring computer science farther along than it was before in your district. Some of you have considerable progress already. Maybe you were part of this group last year. Others are just getting started and sort of kind of figuring out what's up and what's down and where should we go next. So wherever you are, know that that's valuable. You have to start this journey 1 step at a time. And we want to be able to support you and give you resources this year that will help you to develop your district from whatever position you're at. And we want you to start by thinking for a minute about what you have if you're considering bringing computer science to every student eventually, hopefully, right? It's all about equity and making sure that all of our students have access to computer science education. What are you going to consider are your strengths?
So I'm going to pause you for a second. The camera view, you step.
Yeah. Oh.
Top right.
Hi, while you watch my back. We have an awkward setup here in Wenatchee today.
Yeah, I think you'll be fine if you kind of, yeah, perfect. There we go.
Okay, so you're going to, when you have a thought, we're going to pause and give you a moment to start to populate kind of your thoughts. And you can see some of these are already coming in. And if you're watching and you see, oh, yep, I forgot about that, you know that you're not limited to just one response if it comes as you're seeing some of these things pop up. So I'm seeing lots and lots of really incredible strengths. If I had to sum up some of the ones some themes that I'm seeing, there's really strong administrative support for a lot of these districts, which is huge. And you're trying some new things. You've identified some tools. I saw Hour of Code pop up. I saw TEALS pop up. I saw code.org pop up. So you've got some strong partners as well and technical tools. So give you just a couple more seconds to get in those responses for the things that you're counting as strengths. And I'm going to switch it over to Andrew. But Andrew's on mute. Maybe.
Thank you, Sue. So it looks like we've had 50 responses. And I second exactly what you just said. Some of these strengths are powerful for the computer science world across our state. So we're going to move on to the next piece of this analysis, which talks about weaknesses. Okay, so same kind of prompt, but now think about the weaknesses of what we're doing. So we'll give you some time to think about your weaknesses because then you can help work through them. And we're going to have you respond and let's see what comes up.
Oh, yeah. Should all be 240 characters. Maybe. Kind of like a tweet.
So looking at these as it scrolls through, as the last couple come in, we're noticing a lot of common themes, okay, with the weaknesses, from anywhere from lack of funding available to not having access to just different experiences are not equitable. Okay, it's very interesting that across the state we're seeing common themes with the weaknesses. Okay, I'm going to pass it back off to Sue, and we'll move on to the next one.
So we started with our strengths, and then of course you have to acknowledge some of the things, some of the places where we're not as strong as we want to be, and some of those weaknesses. We're now going to move on to opportunities, and when you're thinking about opportunities, some of these might be for the next year, as you're thinking about the year ahead and the changes that you want to make. Some of these might be challenges. You've got some support in terms of your ESD person that's in the room. We've also got an opportunity with OSPI in the state. So as you think about opportunities, whether they are big and grand and system changes that you see coming, or you see opportunities in a move in your schedule, or an opportunity to take a professional development, think about all of these things and what are you excited about in the coming year? What are the opportunities that you see on the horizon? So it looks like it's kind of slowing down just a bit. So if you are still submitting your response, go ahead and do that. I'm seeing a lot of opportunities. Some of you have initiated, you've got districts that have initiated one-to-one. You've got devices coming in. You're doing, I saw coding and drones. There's multiple trainings that were, and lots of calls out for participation in this type of a PLC type of a group. Some of you acknowledged the state has made some commitments, and we'll hear an update here in just a bit from Shannon on where we're at for some of the state focus on computer science. There's a lot of opportunity. They're still coming.
Still rolling.
They're still rolling. All right, Andrew, I'll pass it back over to you. We'll do our last one.
Thank you, Sue. So the final one of this SWOT analysis is we need to talk about the threats. So what is something that can cause potential problems or sways within the computer science movement? What are things that could threaten as we move forward? And there's reasons why we think about threats, and it's so we can plan about them, so we can problem solve, because they're usually external. So what possible threats to computer science as we move forward do you think will come up?
Even this winter. Well, for summer, we were in the pregnancy number two. But we spent in September, probably down up and then we did one night on just yeah. And then I just recently added so we're looking for overnight solution within the and see.
Yeah, so you've already been.
Charge the battery and it did okay, but we bought a bigger
Just gonna go with the
Okay,
flow
so
here.
now that we've seen kind of different threats that might cause potential harm or movement as we move forward to this, we can start talking about how we want to plan around it and how we can look for those opportunities to make them countered. So with your group in your room, just debrief this activity. What were things that you noticed? And I don't know if you saw, but after you submitted the last one, you could submit to get the results, where you can have this as a powerful tool as well. So talk with your group about how this entire process, the SWOT analysis of computer science initiatives moving forward, could possibly and potentially help us as a leadership network across the state, as well as you within your district. We'll spend about 3 to 4 minutes on that. Yeah, about 30 seconds, we'll come back so you can wrap up conversations. Okay, thank you, everybody. Our conversation was very rich around how this can help us analyze moving forward across the state. Is there anybody that would like to share something that they talked about in their region that just kind of resonated with you from this activity?
So here at ESD 123, we were talking about, what's this going to look like with legislature now making a high school opportunity for a computer science class? When is it going to become a mandatory class? And then by that time, what's going to be happening in middle school? And because we were talking about how that may be a snowball for computer science, because now the requirements there, what they're doing in middle school is going to make high school have to up their game. So we were just kind of thinking around how all of the comments and stuff would play around this scenario. If that makes sense to anybody.
It does. Thank you, Brenda.
Sure. I had a thought kind of about, like you mentioned, about the snowballing. I think the way that we do foreign languages is really kind of outdated because, like, by the time we get to high school, I think that we're going to start seeing that a lot with computer science as well. So if we can start those foundations for the younger students, I think that'll just help them the whole way. I know doing unplugged activities is really powerful because I know when I start off my class where you basically didn't touch the computer for quite a while. So it's more thinking like a computer, really. So.
Sure.
We knew he was gonna push something.
So one of the things I was sharing was that our district, we have tech specialists in K-5 who all address, do a lot of computer science in their classrooms. But what that does is then that gives the classroom teachers the ability to say, well, it's covered in tech specialists, so I don't need to do it in my classroom, which of course then eliminates those cross-curricular possibilities. So.
In 189, we had a similar conversation, just talking about, because it's not necessarily anyone's responsibility, it's no one's responsibility. So it's, people think it's important, but not necessarily for them. And then we saw some crossover with some of the other like ed tech standards and some of the other standards that aren't necessarily always at the forefront of people's minds. So that was the conversation we had here in 189.
Well, thank you, everybody. It sounds like we all have some similar ideas across the state where we want this to become more of a priority and a focus for our districts, and we now need the tools and leverage to be able to do that, whether it come from state possibilities or regional, or if it's from us, because we are computer science leadership. That's what we're developing. So this was, for me, a great activity to start moving forward, especially with having a computer set mindset for today. So thank you, Sue, for developing this. And we're going to move on to the next piece, which is why are you here and what is the really long acronym, which we're going to change eventually. Okay, so Amy and Catherine.
So just a quick introduction. So my name is Amy Colburn. I'm the Technology and Science Coordinator for 189 in Anacortes. And I'm here where Catherine and I are gonna do this part together, but Catherine is not with me, so I'm gonna let her introduce herself.
I'm Catherine Levick. I'm at ESD 112 in Vancouver, and I'm the integrated learning coach.
So Catherine and I, when we got together to plan this portion of the meeting, we were giggling because we said, what is this acronym say? You can't even say it, like you can't even say the acronym. So the acronym actually stands for Washington State Computer Science Learning Network. Although we're open to suggestions on if you have a clever way to say that in a way that's easier to understand, feel free to let the person in the room, your lead person know, and we can, we're open to suggestions because we know that's not necessarily an easy one to remember. So anyway, so the question that we wanted to think about is, why are you here? So we know that this is a computer science leads meeting. We all think that, okay, we're in here for some computer science reason, but we know that the true reason why you're here might be different for every person in the room. So when we thought about what kind of activity did we want people to do, we thought about doing a little video. So we know that a lot of people have seen the Simon Sinek video of the why, and so we wanted to try to find something different. If you haven't seen the Simon Sinek video, I linked it underneath in the comments section so that you can grab it. But I thought this video, I've seen it a couple times, so I know some of you might have seen it as well, but it has you think about your why in a little bit different way. So we're gonna play this. Hopefully people have tested their video volume in their own region. So let's go ahead and we'll play this, and then we'll do a short activity.
What? But the key really isn't to know what, the key is to know why. You have options on what your what can be. For instance, my why is to inspire people to walk in purpose. My what is stand-up comedy. My what is writing books. My what can be going out with some friends to eat. In fact, another what that has moved me towards my why is a web series that we have out now called Break Time. So every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, you should subscribe to the channel. We do a series called Break Time on YouTube. So 3 o'clock, we drop a new episode. One episode in particular, I'm about to show you a clip to. We were in Winston-Salem. So Break Time, this is how it works. I travel the country, I do stand-up comedy, probably an hour, hour and a half at an event. And in the middle of my show, I'll just sit down and start talking to the audience. And funny just happens. Or I'll meet somebody who's really interesting. So I met this one guy, and he said that he teaches music at a school. I was like, all right, you teach music, you know, can you sing? And then I'm just gonna show you the clip. Check it. So you're a musical director. Cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow. That bro could sing, you know what I'm saying? All right. Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Right now I'm found, was blind, but 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 now I'm asleep.
So here's the thing. The first time I asked him to sing, he knew what he was doing. The second time I asked him to sing, he knew why he was doing it. When you know your why, your what has more impact because you're walking in or towards your purpose.
All righty, so can we go to the next slide? Thank you. So we're going to ask all of you in all of these various rooms, wherever you are, to think about your why. Why are you here? And write that down on a sticky note or an index card or whatever kind of supplies you have there in your room. And we're going to give you about 2 minutes to write that down and kind of consolidate it, and then be ready to move around and do a little bit of sharing. Right? Go for it. All right, if we can wrap up our writing in about 15 more seconds. All righty, can we go to the next slide? I feel so out of control over here. Stab at my PowerPoint. So at your site, if you could find some people who have similar whys to you. So this means you're gonna have to get up and kind of move around and share what your why is. And this is gonna look different depending on how many people you have in the room. We have a lot of room, we can kind of cha-cha here, but if there's a lot of you in the room, you might have to be kind of careful about this. And so try to form a group with people who have a similar why as you. And as leaders in each region, we're going to try and pull out common themes from the groups at our sites and talk about that in our own location, because I'm going to mute, we're all going to mute for this part. And in 10 minutes, actually, you're gonna shorten that up a little. We'll do 10 minutes. We are going to share out a summary to the group. Any questions before we mute? Thanks for that edit. It's like magic. All right, everybody go ahead and find someone who has a similar why. See if you can pull out some themes. About 30 more seconds, hopefully we'll be. We can stretch that if we have.
Text watch.
All right, if we can pull everyone back together. All right, so we're gonna start sharing out as regions. So if leaders can make sure you have your themes ready. So 189 will start first. So we had a group of 12 and we actually had 5 themes. So one of our themes was equity. We had skills for employment, student learning, systemic change, and educator PD to reach all students. So those are our 5 themes. So I'm just going to pass it back over to Catherine to do hers, and then we'll get the other ESDs on as well.
Alrighty, we are small but mighty here with 5 of us all together. So we had 2 kind of main themes. And the first one was we're here for personal learning to get better at the skills of how to integrate computer science so that it's not just like one more thing added to the plates, which are already so full. And we're here because we want to prepare students, and we had a kind of a broad concept of what that meant, but really I think we kind of agreed, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong here, that we want students to be able to produce, not just consume, and to understand what they're looking at with all the technology in their lives. And they don't wait till high school to start using technology, so they shouldn't wait till then to start understanding it. So, all right, next.
Andrew from Capital Region. Our group kind of had a similar theme across our entire table, so we have 8 of us here, and we all said very much the same thing. And so we kind of summarized, and it's equitable access for all students to learn and achieve in their future.
This
All
is
right,
Larry.
this is Pete. Oh, go ahead, Larry. You go.
Thanks, Pete. Larry at ESD 105, and we had 2 groups that were very similar. One was to provide opportunities for students around computer science, and then the other that really met up well with that was to then help students reach their full potential. So those are part of our whys.
Okay, thanks, Larry. This is Pete at North Central. We had a few groups and kind of boiled it into a couple different themes. The first one was the motivation and mindset of the classroom and building that structure that would allow us to help teachers and students work on the mindset of what computer science is as they move forward. The second theme was around connection and building this pathway or this channel between throughout K-12. And the group kind of focused back on the elementary. One of the things that popped up was keyboarding, of all things, which makes a lot of sense when you talk about the skills needed at the elementary to be able to make that coding jump as they go away from unplugged activities into actually coding.
Hey, this is Brenda, this is our ESD 123 group out in Pasco. And we have 7 here that made the group. And much like everybody else has talked about, they really talked about how do we make those light bulb moments for the kids for their learning and be able to have that interest into computer science at that young age and let them go through high school with that. And then the second one was, again, this change throughout the district, the system change. And how do we make that, how do we get those goals set? And then how do we do the next steps and build that computer science through a K-12 piece? Okay, is that good? All right.
Was that did every region get to share, or are we missing someone? Sorry. Was that everybody? Okay, I'm gonna hope that it was everybody. Interrupt me if I'm wrong and you're just having trouble unmuting. So just to kind of wrap up this idea of why are we here. The goals that we as a leadership group came up with came out of the things that we've been hearing from our participants over the year. And I don't know about the rest of you all leaders in your regions. I didn't hear anything that surprised me. This is kind of similar themes to what we had going on before. Preparing students, equity, making sure that everybody is able to get access to this information, and building pathways for communication so that we can have a cohesive idea of what computer science looks like from K-12. And we're all here because we want to learn something, including those of us who are leading the regions. We are all learning as we go. Nobody is perfect at this yet. And so that's why we've all come together here, so that we can continue that learning and hopefully make things more equitable in our regions. Amy, did you have anything else you wanted to say to wrap up? If not, we can go to the next slide.
No, I think we're good.
All right. Thank you. I'll toss it back to Andrew.
Wow, I wish I known.
Okay, and with that, that begins our break. So let's come back together in about 10 minutes, take a stretch break, get some coffee, get some food. And in 10 minutes, Larry and Brenda will kick us off with the next piece.
Folks, here's 1 minute warning. Larry Davison from ESD 105. We'll get started in 1 minute, and we're going to jump into PolyUp. So Andrew, if you get a chance, we can go to that first PolyUp slide. So if you, they've already advanced. If you were still on the previous slide, if you click on the blue PolyUp, there's your hyperlink to get into the actual site for PolyUp. Going to wait another 30 seconds, and then I'm just going to share a little bit about what PolyUp is and quickly get you started. And for this, I'll give you a little head start. We're going to do paired programming. So find a partner and be ready to have either a role as a navigator or a role as a driver, and we'll discuss that.
Okay, so who's going to be the driver and who's going to be the speaker?
Do you need some folks to mute? If you could, go ahead and mute computers. Thank you for muting, and we're going to get started. There we go. Thank you so much. So here's a little information about PolyUp before we get started. PolyUp, I'm just reading right from their website. PolyUp is a free and open computational thinking playground where students can experiment with numbers and functions. Students will mod or modify a variety of expressions, equations, and algorithms to solve mathematical puzzles and discover the beauty of math in a visual environment. So once we've gotten to this point, Brenda, you want to go ahead and take us through these first few slides?
Okay, I had us unmuted, but somehow I got muted again. Okay, so is everybody there? Everybody ready to go? Okay, so when we go through this first slide, see, I think we need to go to the top one. Yeah, so right here is you have different levels. And so the kids are going to have to be able to think and get through these levels before it lets them go to the next one. PolyUp is a really great place for, I experienced this from student struggle, and we know that when students have that productive struggle, they take a lot of learning back with them and understanding. So when you first see this, when you get on here, it's going to look like you might think it's going to be a computer, but it's more than that. So I can't wait for you to experience this. So if you'll click on that Meet Poly 1.
Actually, Brenda, if you'll why don't we just go down through the slides 1 through 5.
Okay, let's do that. Sorry. Okay. All right. Go down, and you've already go down one more because you already did this one, right, Larry?
No, I didn't. I didn't talk about the computational thinking.
Okay. So, yeah. So the computational thinking on this area. So if the teachers are really wanting the kids to think about procedure and rules and stuff that they have to play by, this is a great place for them to find this piece. And
it's just in the slide deck, so you're doing
and so you're going to look at these different places. So your decomposition and pattern recognitions, they're going to be working with these pieces. So if you go to the next slide, and Larry, if I leave anything out, please add.
Sure, will do. Thanks.
So it uses reverse Polish notation, and so what happens is, so kids are used to 2 plus 7, right? Okay, but they're going to have to learn that they have to put the numbers in front, and then they'll be added. Okay, and they'll be playing with that to get their answer.
Yeah, so that's a key. Make sure you remember what you're going to see this throughout the activity.
Yes.
In this case, the 2 7's not 27.
Okay.
It's 2 7, and then the operator comes after. Your operands are on the front end. Operator comes next.
Yeah. So definitely that is not a 27. That is the 2 and the 7, and you're going to find the sum of those two numbers. Okay. All right. Next slide, please.
It has to be a reasonable question. Is there a logical reason?
Next slide.
As they came up with.
Can we go to the next slide? Okay. And so this is what it's going to look like. So you'll see the numbers are predetermined. They can't change the numbers. They can only change where the operation goes. And then it will tell you immediately if you got it right or not.
So,
Okay,
but
you'll check it.
yeah, I'll just step in for a second. So if you look at the top of the slide, it says learn the game rules.
Yes.
There are 2 significant rules that you want to make sure you understand before you move into the activity. So the left-hand side dealing with 2 operands, right-hand side dealing with 3, and take notice as to how.
Look what happens.
Thanks, Brenda.
Well, thank you. Okay, so
9. Yeah,
the next slide.
they didn't take the 8. They did the 2 smaller subtitles.
So, so if you're making 9 with the 2 and the 7, again, it's going to take the 2, 7, and then add them to get your 9. And let's see, is there anything else that they really need to come out this slide?
No.
So to learn about the operations and what the rules are,
Yeah.
okay, and how to make it work.
So here's your spot, folks. You're in pair programming. So Andrew, can you take us back to the slide deck for just a second? And let's go down. There you go. That's what we're working on right now. Another key aspect of this is peer programming, paired programming. And if you haven't used this in your classroom, certainly give this a try. Where if you are the driver, you are executing the program. That's like you being the computer. If you're the navigator, you're writing the code, you're giving the directions, just like in a car, but you're not teaching the computer. So navigator, hands-off computer, driver's all about the computer, and you're just receiving instruction like a computer would. But this is a huge piece to help students understand. And in a classroom, we trade off it. So in this activity, trade roles with your partner. Next slide down. And so here's your role. You've already partnered up. We're going to go back to the slide where you're going to click on that Meet Poly 1, Chip 1, and you're going to get started. So you want to use as much time as you can to get through as many of the tasks. We're going to give you 10 minutes. But then what we want you to do with your partner is still in the back of your mind be thinking, was it true that computational thinking bled out in this activity? And if so, how? We have a Padlet for you to be able to give us that information. You will go through this activity. So Andrew, let's go back to the Meet Poly 1, where it says play chip 1. Go ahead and click that.
Yeah.
We're going to do 1 together.
And then so, let's see, is everybody's coming up? Who's the driver? Okay, so the other person's the navigator.
Are you guys ready in this room? Have you clicked on that play chip 1?
So now, okay, we can't see the bottom of that screen.
Is Linus doing it?
Well, I'm trying to, so, okay, there's the screen. So you see the blocks with the plus sign at the underneath Poly?
Yes.
So where would you need to put that to get your answer 9?
Under the 7.
Under the 7. So put it under the 7. Just drop it. And then click Poly.
Click on the face in order to.
Yeah, click on the face. And now it's going to give you your feedback. And you got it. And then you're ready for the next one.
So click on the arrow.
Okay, click on the blue arrow. And now you're ready for the next block. And even though these are already checked, yours shouldn't be. Yeah, so you'll just go to the next block. And so those of you that are driving, your navigator needs to be telling you where to put the operation signs.
I have no idea.
Okay?
So at this point, you've got 10 minutes. Work with a partner, see how many of these you can solve, and determine if computational thinking was evident in this activity.
Okay, why would it not let you move it?
The next one. It was on the bottom. There you go.
want it to equal 4.
Okay, so
I'm just trying to get to
Want to leave it there? Okay.
Okay,
These two.
So go to.
6 is 14.
So I
Just
think we
keep it
just
there.
don't-
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's try that one.
Yeah, click on this. Okay.
Can I use it like stop us from doing that?
Well, putting it involved wasn't right. I'll put the 5 and 6 above the first plus 6. Yeah, so that's the first two.
So we should somehow it's, I don't know that house. All right, let's go down and see, I want to see the other slides.
6 added together, 14.
This plus. Except, do you know how to stop your computer?
Okay.
Except you know how to stop your computer and constantly showing me
So
that.
you're the driver
I do.
and I'm the navigator.
Okay.
So you put your plus sign, move it to a
So you're gonna put the minus under the 3 and then the plus under the minus.
I did that. I did that one.
No.
Come on. But what if I twist it there, there's nothing to twist. Okay, so yeah.
Should have been no plus. You want to try?
So this I there's 2 ways of doing this. You can move this.
Let's see.
Okay.
Or you can move it.
Can you move the numbers?
Okay.
This
Doesn't matter
plus is
right now.
3 plus is 14.
But it doesn't only takes the 2.
Let's see. So you're gonna go minus under the 6 and 3 under the 3. And then you're gonna plus under the 5. Once I put the first one in, it's complicated to move. Well, it's my old thing.
Now, I did not have to do this, so this is different, so. Place your, no, you're the driver, I'm the navigator, so place your six.
Minus under the 3.
Okay, okay, good idea.
Put it under the 3, 5 minus 3.
Let's try that.
Is 2, and then
Okay.
plus
Yeah,
6.
but you're
So under the 6.
Let's do. Tell me the words.
6 plus 5.
Okay. I need to move something down. I think I need to move something down.
There are different ways you could do each of these. I wanted to do one grade out. You were thinking a different way. Yeah, I think 6 minus 3 is 6 minus 3. I think order of operations, that's going to go 3 minus 6, wouldn't it? It'd be interesting to find out. I don't actually know the answer to that. So you just put the plus under the 1, under the last one, and the minus under it as well.
Got it. Okay, so use your words.
Oh, no, I think
We put the plus down.
There you go.
5 and 3 first.
And touching didn't seem to be any
That's
better.
why, so you gotta do it.
So if they want to do it
Down by the doors,
They'll
like-
give you negatives, so the plus has to go above the last one. They'll make 2, and then you leave that there.
Okay, let's try it. Put the minus sign below the 6.
That's exactly what you said.
No, never mind. Okay, put that down. See, so thank you.
You're welcome. In advance.
I want 8. Okay. Subtraction.
So
What
then
about minus 6? Subtract 3.
Minus sign on the 3.
instructions. So
Minus sign on the 3.
You put the plus under the last one. There you go.
And obviously it's not just that.
You got two on the bottom.
Instructions, so.
Like that. We know which one we explain, which is that's our advanced. Next one. Okay, let's do this. Let me just do plus sign. Just do the plus sign.
There.
Okay, I just wanted to with you. We're oh, we together. Cause see, we do this one.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going down.
I think that was actually like right
That's
around.
pretty cool.
Right.
So it's going to
Go back to that.
first choose the track.
Yes. So put the two above it. On the,
So they would have to understand that.
and the three above it.
Before they get positive numbers.
So what do you, what else to get the numbers on?
You said 1 minus 1.
Yeah, but that has to go
Oh,
under.
there you
Go from top to bottom, please. Okay.
go. That's fine.
That's what we do it wrong and just figure out what happens.
Oh,
Okay. Plus and minus. Doesn't matter. One more. in the following one.
Oh, what happens if you go? She's got a line, whatever.
Show me what it does.
Away.
All right, that's complicated.
Can't put it in there.
Oh.
Just right.
Move the dice back out. What if you click a number now?
Okay, we're used to having number or sign. This one's.
Oh, yeah, no, it's equal to-
Okay, so I was thinking of this.
No.
Probably zero. It should have went 0. Okay.
Three, oh, I don't mind.
So it's not a regular, yeah, it's not a regular operations problem.
Oh, it moved it to the 1 minus 0. That was instead of 0. So it is important that
Didn't that work?
Okay with that? Okay. 0, and then it'll grab that one first.
3 and 2 minus the 1.
That's what it was.
What is the reason for the dice?
I can't figure that out either. Slide 18 tries to give you some.
Just see what Polly's gonna show us.
Then that must not be what I'm thinking with numbers. You guys stuck on the dice?
Yes. Let's just try it random.
Step on the what?
The dice.
The 10 points at the end of the run.
So they're not numeric values?
So folks, we have a 2-minute warning.
Oh, there it is.
Already. So if you are still
If you
working
click on the
for 2
number,
minutes, and I'll be
type the
back.
number in, then you can just grab the top and you can drag that circle over. Right?
I go five.
Into the dice.
No.
I don't know what the dice do. I haven't figured that
I
out.
haven't, what level's the dice? I don't remember seeing the
That's on
dice.
the 10th one. So it's asking you to do,
Yep.
There it is. Okay, definitely not when I was playing at home.
Interesting.
Good to know. Oh, no, just drag it out. That'll work.
you go back.
It's subtract 30. Just come back out, come back in.
So then you gotta create.
So then-
There you go.
Oh my gosh.
So 47 plus 56.
Did you double click on the green one?
And then 56.
No, but that green one opens up like a scientific calculator. Okay.
Oh, is this like trigonometry?
56.
Oh, no, these are spots. They're not dice.
This is like we wanted to.
Okay, about 30 seconds of you another piece. If you are working on a problem, this will be your last.
Larry, does this continue, like, after they get the trophy, does it go to the other level?
Yeah, we got locked up.
And then this is a
The first part is working.
Okay, don't figure out the dice one.
Then it'll, there you go.
I don't think they're dice, I think they're spots.
They're dice with 2 spots. They are.
They're different.
What do they do?
We just did 4, 2, and
Okay.
then minus to make it equal 2.
Larry's calling time.
So we just had to go into the pound.
Okay, I can have folks mute.
Sorry.
We can have a quick discussion here in our groups. I hope you had fun with Poly Up. So facilitators at your region, it'd be great to just get a sense for how it was received and how folks, what they saw powerful about Poly Up. But we want to turn our attention, Andrew, if I could take you back to our slide deck. And what I'd like to have you do now, is still in your partners, is click on the link for our Padlet. And our question now is, did this really satisfy what we understand to be computational thinking, the 4 pillars? So you open up a Padlet, and I want you and your partner to determine if algorithms was represented, how so? If you believe that there was abstraction in this, then click and add a Padlet connection. Same with pattern identification and decomposition. So take a few minutes, talk to your partner, determine if there was really representation of all 4 pillars or any number of those, and put some entries in our Padlet. We're going to give you about 5 minutes for this.
Larry, where's your Padlet?
In the slide deck.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Let me mute. So folks around the state, we'll give you 1 minute to wrap up any thoughts you have regarding the computational thinking pillars, and we'll come together and finish up. Okay, to wrap up this segment with Polya, I'd like to hear from some of the groups around our group here in 105, as well as groups around the state. Let's start with algorithm. Do we believe that there was a strong argument that algorithm existed in this activity, that it was represented within Polya? I'm going to start here in 105. So I hear some yeses. Someone want to just share out to the group? How so? How was algorithm represented?
You had to have steps. You had to solve the problem.
We had steps, and we had to solve the problem by using steps, which would then be represented as an algorithm.
Well, we had to use reverse Polish notation as our core algorithm to be able to solve those problems.
So I'm just repeating only to just make sure it goes through the microphone. So I had to use reverse Polish notation, and I did the last.
To be able to solve the problem.
To be
so we had to apply that as a part of our algorithm.
Okay.
That's a little bit of abstraction too.
Anyone else from another ESD that wants to chime in for algorithm? Let's move to abstraction. We'll move beyond ESD 105. How about any of the other ESDs? 112, 113, 123, 171, 189. How was abstraction present?
Well, actually, using poly.
Anyone from another ESD? Or scroll down through the Padlet, find a comment, and just share a comment that you agree with for abstraction.
I like that last one about just that you actually are removing some detail when you use this particular kind of algorithm. At least it's changing it up. For me, it's more like mixing it up, but I can see how you could characterize that as an abstraction.
And what's missing for those math teachers that are in the audience? What's the piece that's missing in our traditional mathematics?
Sequence, like the equal sign.
What symbols? There's a symbol that we use a lot in math, but we don't see it.
Equal sign.
Parentheses. So no parentheses. So does that represent somewhat of an abstraction?
To get the order of operation to go where you want it.
So it's still being able to move through order of operation, but in a manner without parentheses. How about, well, I've got 2 done, 2 to go. Pattern identification. Scroll down through the list, or maybe on your own you have a comment as to how was pattern identification represented in Poly?
Yeah,
So anybody have something they want to share?
I think Zoe did it the same way. She went from the bottom up, so she used kind of that.
Okay, speak loud. We have an entry here. Go ahead. Go ahead and say it.
She used solve the problem from the bottom up to figure out where to put the plus and the minus.
Did everybody hear that?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yes. And I do like the one that says, making your brain hurt. Let's wrap this up. Let's move to the last of the 4 pillars, decomposition. How was decomposition represented in this activity at Polya? Talk to a neighbor, turn to an elbow partner, see if you can agree, and let's see if we have someone from outside of the ESDs that haven't shared yet, see if we get one last sharing moment in before we transition.
Well, you have to break down the numbers to solve. Right, and which order it was gonna pull. And then what answer you're gonna get to go to the next step. And
We've got a couple of responses in 105, but just looking for somebody outside first. Another ESD, how is decomposition represented? I'm going to turn to folks here. So Eric, what was one of the comments you had about decomposition?
You had to, it was there because you had to abstract the numbers and know what order of, when I was putting my operations in, how I needed to do that, so.
I remember when I first saw this, I wondered if starting with the sum, starting with the solution, does that somehow represent decomposition? Because I have to really break apart that solution, that value, to then be able to determine what's my next step. So perhaps that's an additional one. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it's something that you share with colleagues back at your schools. I think it's a very powerful tool. We just scratched the surface with all that's available in Polya. I have a great colleague here, Dawn Sparks. I'll give her credit. She's our math coordinator here at ESD 105. She has a lot more experience with this, and if you're interested in some insights, please let me know. I'd be happy to put you in contact with Dawn. I'll send this back to you, Andrew. Thank you. And Brenda, thank you.
Thank you, Larry. I just couldn't get off mute.
So welcome back. Larry, one of you have muted all of us. So we can't unmute. So I'm using my personal computer. So looking at our schedule, we're now going to move to Pete, who will be doing the book study.
Okay.
Do that.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, this is an awkward room to be in. Somebody's gonna have to look at my back.
Don't stand
But,
with
that's
your,
okay.
your
So-
foot in front of the camera.
Okay, so we decided as a state that we had some great success last year when we did this study, and so we're going to give it another shot. And so, here's the book. Pass it around. You guys can look at it in our room. Computer science, K-12. So let me give you a little history of a little background on the book, and then and talk about the details of this. So through our computer science grant, we purchased a book for everybody. Is that correct? Look at Sue, right? Yes. Everybody and every ESD should have a stack of these books that you're getting right now. So everybody has it in their hand. And so that's pretty cool. So we got some resources here. So this book is a great resource. It's a great tool for all types of folks that are jumping into computer science. Whether you are completely new to this and this is your first experience and you're trying to get something going and get an understanding of computer science, or you've already implemented, you're running TEALs, you've got some computer science at some level in your district, you're the teacher, you're the curriculum director, you're a principal, you're in teaching and learning, it really doesn't matter. This book kind of covers all of it from the start. The cool thing about this book is it really is going to be a tool in your tool belt that you'll be able to refer to down the road. So similar to our last book study, there's several examples in here with links to websites that run you through computational thinking or existing practices and examples of how to implement computer science, what it looks like in other areas, as well as what I'm really excited about, gives you the another tool to be able to have conversations with people in your district about why computer science is important and how someone could get started in computer science if they're doing nothing or they've already got something going. What would be the next step? So really, this is kind of that whole roadmap of computer science. And it looks like it's a pretty quick read, but a few of the units in here have some pretty in-depth activities that would take some time. So that's kind of a nutshell on the book. You can read on the back cover. It's got a great explanation, obviously. Our plan is to do these very similar to that we did last year. So, and I'm totally open to changing this around, but here is the draft plan right now that you can see on the screen. We're going to meet for 3 Fridays, and we'll meet at 7:30 a.m. over Zoom. Don't drive to Wenatchee. Don't come to my house. No, you can come to my house, that's fine. So we'll do this, and basically we're gonna pre-read. So on November 8th, Friday, November 8th, we'll dial up that Zoom at 7:30. The assumption is that everyone has read Unit 1 and 2 in the book, marked it up, and we'll get together as a state to discuss, and I'll have some questions. I'll facilitate this book study. We'll have some questions, we'll get some feelings and some ideas and some thoughts from around the state for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. It's very flexible. I know some folks, it depends on the Friday. Sometimes you have an hour at a time, sometimes you've got 20 minutes at a time. And so that's okay. But we'll basically go around the room, get the input, answer some questions, dive into this book, and just give you another tool in your tool belt. So that's kind of what it is. We will also record all of the Zooms. So if you miss one, you can stop and watch it later just to see what other people are talking about. And then obviously I'll have clock hours. So right now the plan is to do these 3 Fridays. The Zoom link and this entire schedule and all the details I will put in Workplace. So if you would like to sign up, you sign up in PD Enroller. Whether you want clock hours or not, you'll sign up there. The Zoom link will be there and in Workplace. And we will kick it off on November 8th. Any questions, comments, feedback? Perfect. All right. Again, I'm really excited about this book. I think that book studies are great. It gets us on the same page and starts to help us build that unified definition, at least for around this content as a state. So, all right. Other questions? Then I'll see 100 people on Zoom on November 8th, right? Now, a little bit about the date, just real quick. I know that 50% of the people Fridays works great. 50% it doesn't. 50% like 7:30, the other 50% like 6:30. So I'm open to try to build consensus and do something different. So if you want to chip into your local leader at your facilitator at your ESD, if you guys want to have discussion, they can give me feedback and we can throw that up on Workplace. But tentatively, this is what we'll stick with. So let me know if there's any feedback as we move closer to the 8th.
Class starts at 7:45. Good work.
So folks, be thinking about that either at lunch or this afternoon. We'll talk a little bit about, is there some feedback that we can share regarding date or time for the work study.
So who's putting on the book study?
Pete Phillips from 171. He was the one that did our book study last year.
So he's from Wenatchee.
Yeah, 171 Wenatchee. He and Sue Kane are co-leads.
Okay, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to pass it over to Shannon, who is going to do the computer science education, the state of computer science education. Thank you, Shannon.
Okay, good morning. Thank you guys for all being here. It's really exciting to work with everybody. I have a couple updates for you, and I think this is something that you guys all have said before this morning, and that is we really need some direction and we need a plan. And so some of the legislation that we've been working with is going to be guiding us in that direction. And so one of the big ones is the Senate Bill 5088, which says by 22-23 school year, each district that operates a high school must provide the opportunity, nice word, to access an elective computer science course that is available to all high school students. So there's a lot of ambiguity in this, but what we're going to do is we need to first of all define what is a computer science course. When I pulled the data for computer science courses statewide, what happened? Oh.
2 fingers, just click back on screen.
Okay. What I found is that a lot of people are identifying classes such as keyboarding as a computer science class. And so there are questions around that definition. And so we're bringing a group of people together, and there are some people in your region right now on your leadership teams that will be attending. And we're going to take a look at how do we want to define computer science, because that's going to help us all the way around. So not only are we going to be able to then take a look at the second part of that bill, which talks about equivalency crediting and having an exam available, well, we need to define computer science for that. Also, the other bill, which is the data bill, I think my order's out of here wrong, but in the data bill, it wants to know the total number of computer science courses offered. And so lots of misunderstandings on what computer science is. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with this team, and we're going to look at defining what we think a computer science course is. We don't want to make it really narrow. We want all schools to have the opportunity, especially to start a computer science class. But we also don't want it to be so broad. We have applications of Word in here too. So that will be a task. We're going to start in November. We're going to come up with some definitions. We're going to be working with some school districts on course codes. How are we going to code these? Do we have a good enough definition to help districts so we can get some accurate data? The other part of this, which is going to be interesting, is they must provide the opportunity. So we will be giving guidance on what we think the opportunity means. An opportunity probably doesn't mean 0 period. It probably, yeah. And it probably doesn't mean for 6 weeks. So we're going to have to take a look and give guidance. I know that's a lot of information on what we're going to do there. Do we have any questions?
I have a question, Shannon. Oh, can I ask her? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, hi, Shannon. This is Tiffany Price.
Hi, Tiffany.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Regarding your identifying, I guess, a class that would meet this requirement, is this going to be coded as a CTE class? Is it going to still be under the umbrella of CTE?
So that was another interesting thing when I pulled the data. Sometimes I had CTE classes that also had state course codes attached to them, and sometimes I just had computer science courses with state course codes and then no CTE code, or just CTE alone. So there will be a way that we can do this in a combination, because we still want to know and understand what courses are being taught through CTE. So we're hoping that through a guidance document that we're going to be providing the districts, that it could make that easier for them to do.
Okay, meaning either that it could be either a CTE certificated teacher or a general ed teacher? Is that what you mean?
So, yeah, so there's two certifications. So you have your CTE certification, and there is another state certification for computer science that at this time does not allow for CTE funding. So if the district does not care about whether or not they have CTE funding, they could have a teacher add this endorsement. It could be a math teacher, could be a science teacher, and it would be taught under general ed. So it's up to the district. I really don't see very many districts doing it without having the CTE enhanced funding.
Okay, thank you.
There's no funding.
Any other questions? Okay, so one of the things too is as we're doing this, we're building our capacity.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get my mute off. I do have a question here.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So we have computer science classes offered at the middle school that count for high school credit. At this time, not CTE, obviously. And I'm wondering, are those going to be looped into the definition of under House Bill 5088? If it's all high school students, would that be something that would qualify?
If you're giving high school credit, yeah, I would think so. But the intent, I believe, was to have every physical building that's a high school or defined as a high school to offer that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and really what we really want to do too is come up with a definition that could be K-12. There's all sorts of opportunities at elementary and middle school too that I think would be beneficial for us to be able to track. Thank you. Good question. Any others? Yeah, and so really that's part of it too, is defining computer science in a way that hopefully we can do this K-12. The other part is not wanting to be so tight with our definition, but also being allowed to be able to add things. So I just had an email across my desk for AI for K-12. So there's a group now who are creating artificial intelligence standards for K-12 education. So as we begin to change and new things are happening, we want to be able to track and understand this as part of the big picture. It's crazy. I mean, computer science is changing all of the time. So making sure our definition can grow, you know, and flex as well. Part of this definition then, and once we get the tracking in, is our next step is to actually create a state plan. And so all of those things that you guys had put in as being needed are definitely going to start to materialize. So hopefully we'll bring together this team or maybe another team to take a look at what do we want to have as a state plan. Once we have kind of a general idea, we'll be coming back to you guys for help in looking at what those goals are and how accurate they would be or how they would work in your districts. So lots of work that is starting. As far as knowing numbers for computer science, the way that course codes go, it's a 2-year process, which I didn't quite understand. So we will have some reporting for AP Computer Science this year. Next year we'll have some optional reporting under the new guidance that we're going to be creating. And then it'll be the following year that we'll actually be able to get some good data on what those computer science courses are. So we're going to move forward. Also, one of the things too that you guys were talking about was really the need for understanding how to implement this K-12 buy-in from administrators. And what we have is we have a script training. It's really a workshop that brings in people from the districts, and yes, it has to be somebody from an administrative position, somebody from a principal position, and then a teacher. At a minimum 3. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at 6 different areas that you need to consider for computer science education. The very first one that we do in the training and we take the most time on is really around leadership. So why do they want to include computer science? Are they going to be able to include computer science K-12, or maybe we're going to make a different plan? But we also look at everything else that's going into the district for initiatives. So when you have 30 initiatives going on, nothing gets done really well. And so we don't want to compete with other initiatives. What we'd like to do is enhance them, but we'd like to have districts think about that. And if this means that they don't implement for another 3 years, but they have an understanding of what it's going to take and how to move forward, then I think that's a positive out of it. And if you think your district would like to do that, talk to them and then talk to your ESD representative. So right now, we did give out 11 small grants to districts to begin the script training, and we'll have one in the Puget Sound area. We'll have one in ESD 105, and then we're looking for different areas where there's another need to do a couple more of these trainings. So we're going to start out small this year with 4 trainings. But we're going to try to increase that. And if there's a need, all of our ESD leads have been trained in the workshop, and they're all facilitators. And so I think that will help us getting that around the regions. Questions about script?
Hey, Shannon, this is Larry at 105. Dawn, you want to?
Hi, Shannon, Dawn Bechtold from Easton. I'm just wondering if you have an idea of the timeline for the first training down here at ESD 105.
So Larry has given me 2 different dates that he was looking at, and so I just need to get with Larry, and we just need to start moving forward. And so if he wants to send out invitations to districts and figure out which one of those days work, And then he'll need to also let me know and the other ESDs, because we'd like to participate and I'd like to come help with that workshop. Out of your district, you guys, or out of your ESD, 6 of your schools received that $4,500 to start on the script. And so you're by far the largest area with interest. And I think this is going to be really helpful for us as we move forward, and how to best implement this and move it forward.
So Shannon, at ESD 123, I know I have a couple of districts that didn't get the grant, but are still interested in the training, which means that if there's room, how will we know if there's room to go ahead and invite these districts? And when can I just need to talk to you about it, or what?
So if you're thinking about maybe just 1 or 2 districts and you want to talk to Larry, because he's close to that area, then that would be fine. Otherwise, I do need to do one in the 101, 123 area. So we can look about and see what the interest is, and maybe we can create one over there.
Okay, thank you.
If you're interested, definitely. Yeah, I did try to do this statewide, but it seems like everybody past Yakima, they're on that eastern side of the state, either didn't know about it or aren't interested at this time. But I think as we move forward, there'll be more interest. Okay, good. All right. Really, what we're going to find is that as we're moving forward, computer science is becoming a bigger issue. So at a symposium or a summit, the CS for All Summit that we were at last week, Larry and Sue and I listened to what was going on in a lot of the other states. And what we're finding is that a lot of these states are actually implementing and requiring K-12 computer science education. And as states are moving forward, I know that Nevada now requires by law, by legislation, requires that all teacher education programs include computational thinking. That's another one. And so as we're moving forward, more and more of this is going to actually move on a national basis. And as that happens, I think we're going to see more in our state, because we are considered a tech leader, and we're going to be looked at and how we're implementing this. So I'm happy to talk with any of you, and if you want to send me an email, if you have concerns or you have questions, let me know. Our November meeting is coming up, and once I get a kind of an idea of a synopsis of what we've achieved, I'll send it out to your ESD leads so that they can keep you guys apprised. You also probably have someone in your room that will be attending too, and you can look forward to them to help as well. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for everything that you're doing, and it's going to be exciting. We're moving forward, yeah, this is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. So for the remainder of this, we have until about noon-ish. We'll try to break a little bit early so people can grab lunch and things before our lunch and learn if you're staying for that. So Larry and I are going to kind of wrap up today. So the first thing I want to talk about is the title of this session. So this is meeting 1 of this network, and the title was Computer Science Mindset. So the way that we are processing this across the state is you're in the room for a reason. You're here. You have some story with computer science and you're providing your passion because we're really trying to help students. And then at the same time, we went through the SWOT analysis where we understood that there's also these threats or these weaknesses or these other things that we need to have in mind as we move forward. All of which is because you're leaders. You're here for a reason. We all know that computer science is on the forefront. We just heard from Shannon, who talked about other states who are making it a legislative requirement for computational thinking. So we are now at a movement. We have a momentum of moving forward. And part of that momentum and part of one of our goals statewide this year is to make computer science more visible, to make this become more of a forefront because we know it's not going away. We know that every single job now has computer science as part of it. They are using computers. They need to understand application. They need to understand how to move forward. So for us to have a voice at the table is a big deal. To be identified as a leader of computer science, it's a big deal. So I want to spend a little bit of time, and we started this last year, but I want to put a little more momentum on it. What is our story? And the nice thing about today is we've already started our story with the activity of understanding your why you're here, why you're part of this group, going through the SWOT analysis, and now hearing from Shannon. So we have a flip grid created that is ours. And this is a data collection tool that you can use in your classroom. So if you've never used Flipgrid, this is what it looks like, where we want to hear your why. We want to have you share out exactly why you're in this room, but more importantly, why is computer science something that we need to bring forward as an initiative, as something that we push to our districts, as something that we're in this room for? So we're going to give a little bit of time. So it's 11:23. These videos can be up to 5 minutes long. They could be as short as 10 seconds. I think there's one that I have somebody giving a peace sign. Okay? But what we're hoping is that you can spend some effort because your voice is important. Your story for computer science is important. So if you click the link to get to this Flipgrid and you push the plus, go ahead and log in with whatever you have and record your story. Share your passion because we can then pass your story forward. Okay? So I do want to give some time towards this, about 10 minutes. You may need to leave the room. You may need to go to the bathroom. You can do this from your cell phone. You can do this from your computer. It doesn't matter. Okay? This is the link. What is your story? So I'm going to give about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back. Is there any questions?
Here's Larry from 105. How about if we toss out a challenge? Because we have 6 ESDs represented, and I'm sure you have these time-stamped. So we know which ones happened last year. If we're serious about this, then find a friend, grab even your Post-it note that you have from this morning, and get your cell phone going and record a quick snippet that just says, I'm serious about computer science and this is why. And even if you're just sharing your Post-it note, let's see how many of these we can get on. So I don't know, Andrew, what we can do as far as the ESD that has the most. And we can even, I know we got a lot of folks in the 105 room. There's a couple of us larger than others. We can figure out a way to balance that. I think it would be important. Let's just push a challenge out in the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Or by the end of the day, how many of these do we have per ESD? Let's kind of put our phones where our thoughts are, our mouths.
Okay.
So that's my thought.
Larry, yeah. Larry, my group says challenge accepted. Good luck.
Okay, here we go. Game on.
Did they? I don't have the stickers.
10 minutes?
15.
Was it 15? What was the time stamp?
Did you log in? Yeah. See, that's fine.
I can't really do much.
And then
Do it on our computer?
yeah.
I guess.
Okay, we're going to try to come back together in about 2 minutes. Okay, are we ready to come back together? Or does Eric have another video to make?
We went outside.
Anybody need more time? Or can we continue on? Well, thank you, everybody. I will tell you, last year, we actually had this as part of every meeting. And we had a total of 12 last year, and we now have 45 video responses. So here's what I'm going to say. First off, thank you, because you can see how powerful this is, and hopefully you can go through and watch some of these videos. The second thing I want to add to is, just to make this a fair contest, I'm going to say, now that you know the link, it's not changing. Computer science is not just about us as leadership who are here stepping in. Computer science is impacting all. And most of us talk about computer science for all. So we're talking teachers, students, parents, partners, workplace. Share this link with others and have them record their computer science video too. Let's see how big we can get this, because then our voices are heard. Okay? So I'm going to say the contest is not over. I'm saying it's just beginning. Okay? And I will think of a prize, because I know everybody's asking the prize. So far, all we really want is Larry's shirt. So thank you, Larry. We would love to have your CS for All shirt. But I don't think that will fit everybody. So one doesn't fit all. Okay. So Larry, I'm going to pass it off to you.
Thanks, Andrew. And I don't know if everybody saw, but we would offer an all-expense-paid trip to the Palm Springs of Washington. So if you're the winner, that we might toss that in there. I'm not saying how you're going to get here, but I'll pay your way one way or the other. It could be like horseback. But let's talk a little bit about the computer science integration from the lesson planning standpoint. Those of you that were with us last year, you might recognize the template that we have on the screen. And that was a collaborative effort from several of us, including Shannon there at OSPI. It's nothing profound, but what we liked about it is that it has some hyperlinks in it. So you may take this and say, well, we have a district directed or a district encouraged document or process that we use for lesson planning or unit planning. But if it doesn't have some of these elements, then consider pulling these in. So what's significant about this is it looks traditional, like what you would normally use. It has a big idea, the general topic, but the next field is, how do you plan to integrate computational thinking? Then you move down to your content standards, because you could be an ELA teacher, you could be a math teacher. So you have your content standards, but then what we want to encourage you to do is look at our computer science standards, and especially the document that's linked there, because that document really highlights computational thinking. It'll show our progression chart, bringing that up. But then as you scroll through that, and I think, Shannon, just a heads up, it looks like this is one that we need to update a little bit. So we'll make sure that you have an accurate document, but if you scroll down a little further, you get to these pages where you see the 4 pillars that we've been talking about earlier today: decomposition, pattern recognition, algorithms, abstraction. You think about your unit, you think about where those pieces lie within your curriculum, and now not only do you have your content standards, you also have some computer science standards that are directly connected to our computational thinking pillars. So it gives you a great opportunity to pull those standards in. So I would, in a past life, I was a school administrator. I was evaluating teachers, and I might share what a great way to show your evaluator that here's what I'm doing to not only cover my content standards, but I'm addressing, it's not just fun, CS for fun, but it's also CS for standards integration. And I can then match some of the computational thinking standards along with my content standards. So if I need any ideas for, maybe it's unplugged, I don't have access to a computer lab, but I can go down below and look at CS Unplugged. Or maybe I've gotten into some of the code.org activities that are so well done. So if you haven't spent any time at the CS fundamentals, especially K-5 teachers, those lesson plans are very well done. Hour of code activities. So there's just a wealth of resources there in those few hyperlinks. And we're just hoping that you'll take advantage of that. And if one or two, if just you pull one or two of these fields into your lesson planning, I think we'll go a long ways. Work with your partners at your grade level, your PLC teams, and help to spread that. Just like Flipgrid, let's help to spread the integration of computer science, and we can root it in standards. That is, so why are you doing this? Well, I'm doing it because here's what I'm working on with my students, and it integrates very nicely into our focus on algorithms. And I'm an ELA teacher. So I'm not teaching CS, I'm teaching 8th grade ELA, whatever that might be. So we hope that this is of value. Anything you'd like to add, Andrew?
Just a tech tip for those of you that aren't familiar with Google. Notice how most of those things are online. You'll need to go File, Make a Copy. That way you can have your own version and you can use it online as well. And we'll fix the table in the one.
And then on this link here, as we start to wrap up our day, we are using funds that the 9 ESD consortium secured through the Computer Science Education Grant that was offered through our state legislature and that OSPI supported. So we're using those monies for these days. So we need to be good stewards of that. And one of the ways that you can help us is by using this link and then completing our survey. Because we have a great evaluator. Janet Gordon has been with us for the past 2.5 years. And she has been a phenomenal resource in helping us tell our story. And she crafts a great message that then we send to it not only goes to OSPI as we give our updates of how we're doing, but our message also goes to state legislators. We're going to be using a lobbyist that works for the ESDs to be able to help tell our story of what we are doing. We are truly making a mark on our state as a collective group. And if you can help us with this, just go through. It's a simple survey. And you can notice there that Andrew's put in the other that you can go down. Today, we're doing the Washington State Computer Science Leadership Network. Complete this. It shouldn't take much more than a minute or so, but it's then data that we can show. Here's the number of people that we are impacting just today. And then throughout the year, as we go through some of our different trainings, we have this opportunity to help tell the story through data. So that's a compelling message when we start talking with legislators or other stakeholders. They want to know how big is this, how expansive is it across the state, and we can prove to them that we're making a difference.
You want us to put WS?
So we're going to give you a few minutes to do this now. So please spend this next 3 to 4 minutes to fill out the survey. It's very brief.
On our computer science skills so that they can be trying to copy it. That's going to work.
Super old.
Okay, I'm gonna bring us back together. I hope you had enough time to fill out the survey. If you're still doing the survey, please keep filling it out. I'll just keep talking. So the final things we want to talk about, and any of the regions, please chime in as well. We have some upcoming events that are important for you and your districts. The first one is the Hour of Code is coming. And last year they had a theme, which was kind of dance party. And this year they have a new theme. We did notice on our workplace that Dean also posted about the Hour of Code theme. So I'm going to just click on that. So here's what it looks like. Okay. Change the world is the theme this year. So the theme for the Hour of Code is how can we change the world? So if you are interested in doing an Hour of Code event, they want you to fill out your information for your building or your district. And this gives kind of highlights, the Twitter feed, etc. Okay, so that is coming. We have CS Education Week, okay, which also ties in with the Hour of Code. CS Education Week this year is December 9th through 15th. So we hope you can join us in doing that. I know each ESD might be doing something special as well, and I believe OSPI does a little something also. And then we, of course, have those upcoming script dates. Is there anything else any other regions would like to add? And then the final thing we want to talk about before we break for a brief period is a couple additional resources that we thought we would share out. So Coding in Kindergarten. Okay, nice YouTube video that talks about it, what it can look like. I'm not going to play that right now, but you have the resource. And then another blog post about teaching kindness with coding. So some just really inspirational things that we wanted you to be aware about. Okay. And with that, I would like to say thank you for all coming today for the morning session where we could join statewide. For those of you staying, I'm going to just leave this running. I will mute. We do have Josh from CS for All joining us about 12:15. We will probably begin with him around 12:20-ish. That way you can have some time to get lunch if you need to leave and get lunch, etc. Where he's going to talk about CS for All and the national work as well as script a little bit more in depth. And then after he is finished, we each have kind of our own pieces around computer science. So I would like to thank you all once again for joining us for the morning session.
Thank you.